Imagine being able to edit your genes in such a way in which you're able to gain superhuman abilities, or maybe you no longer have any more allergies. Well, genetic engineering is a cutting edge technology that scientists have been experimenting for many years. In this presentation, I will go over exactly what genetic engineering is, explain the CRISPR-Cas9 process, the real-world impacts, as well as weigh the benefits and the harms that are associated. Now, although genetic engineering on humans is illegal in most countries, let me still explain genetic engineering simply in terms of the CRISPR-Cas9 example. So according to an article by Medline Plus, Cas9 is simply an enzyme that cuts a strand of DNA on a DNA segment to replace it with another segment of RNA. Now, when this DNA is replaced with this new segment of RNA, this organism is unable to have the traits associated with that change made. So if you have a new piece of DNA, obviously into a new organism, you're going to have different traits for that organism. A peer-reviewed article by Plant Physiology goes into depth upon recent breakthroughs on genetic engineering. Here is a quick view on CRISPR studies around the world. China currently is leading in CRISPR studies at a massive 42%, followed by the United States, Europe, and the rest of the world. Now, disease and contagions in modern day agriculture causes a massive loss of crops every year and causes a huge wastage and huge money loss. Unlike conventional breeding methods, genome editing will actually allow crop breeders to specifically edit out segments of DNA, which removes the disease, or add segments of DNA, which will remove the disease or mutation that causes this loss. Attaching specific receptors allows for a much more increased level of disease resistance in these crops. Now, an excerpt from a book called Genetically Modified Organisms, Transgenic Crops and Recombinant DNA Technology, written by an author, Teresa Williams, goes in depth about the use of GMOs in foods, which are genetically modified organisms, and specifically states what changes each food underwent. Organisms such as soybeans, corn, canola, and plum were given different genetic modifications, giving them traits such as virus resistance and herbicide tolerance. This, among being used for cleaner biofuels, are just some of the real-world applications of genetically modifying food. A benefit of genetically modifying food is obviously that it'll taste better, potentially, more nutritious, less disease, and of course, you'll get foods that with traits that are more desirable to the general population. However, there clearly are risks such as unintended toxic materials, or the fact that some private companies like to have a monopoly over this and essentially increase the price of genetically modified food, which in turn is detrimental to the public. So let's go on to the specific risks. When it goes to human risk, according to an article by Charles Hagedorn of the Virginia State University, there could be several new allergens or in the food supply, or new concentration of unknown toxic materials, considering that this is a completely new food that is being made. It could also lead to a level of antibiotic resistance, as scientists are specifically looking for ways to make these plants disease resistant, which could lead to the unintended consequence of them actually being antibiotic resistant. Now, according to an article written by the University of Maryland Department of English, in addition to consequences when it comes to disease resistance, there's also a huge consequence on a massive scale, and that it comes to terrorism. So terrorists can actually use this technology to create deadly pathogens, especially with genomes of new viruses and pathogens becoming more and more available every day. One example is the polio virus in the 30s, which killed millions of people, sent many to the hospital, and it affected them for a long, long period of time. In addition, genetically engineered resistance is much more short-term and is not effective over a longer period of time, which is what a lot of people have misconceptions over. They also fear that genetic engineering could be abused as like a cost-cutting method, which causes health factors to be overlooked, and that could affect the vast majority of the population. So although we might not quite be able to make ourselves superhuman and give ourselves superhuman abilities, we can definitely say that this is a massive step forward for the scientific community. Thank you so much.